When Clara moved to Maplebridge, she was looking for a fresh start. The town was small, quiet, and full of cosy streets that made her feel peaceful. On her third morning there, while exploring the neighbourhood, she discovered a small cafe at the corner of Laurel Street. Its door was painted a bright, warm blue, and above it hung a simple wooden sign, Blue Door Cafe. Clara stepped inside. Soft music played in the background, and the smell of freshly baked pastries filled the room. Behind the counter stood a young man with dark blonde hair tied in a loose knot and kind brown eyes. "Good morning," he said. "First time here?" "Yes," Clara replied with a shy smile. "I just moved to town." "Welcome to Maplebridge," he said warmly. "I'm Oliver." Clara ordered a cappuccino and a small chocolate muffin. When Oliver brought them to her table, he noticed the book she was reading. "Oh, I love that author," he said. "Her stories always feel like home." Clara looked up, surprised. Not many people know her books. "Well, I guess I'm not like many people," he joked. That made her laugh, a warm, honest laugh she hadn't felt in months. Clara didn't expect the cafe to become her favourite place in town, but the Blue Door Cafe soon became her small island of comfort. She came before work, after long walks, or whenever she needed a moment to breathe. And almost every time, she found Oliver behind the counter with a friendly smile. Their conversations grew longer. Sometimes they talked about books or music. Other times about childhood memories, strange dreams, or their hopes for the future. Clara learned that Oliver had taken over the cafe after his grandmother passed away. He showed her an old photograph from the 1970s, with his grandmother smiling proudly in front of the same blue door. "She painted it this colour," he said. "She believed blue feels like a promise." "A promise of what?" Clara asked. "A promise of better days." Clara looked at the bright door and thought the colour really did feel like hope. One rainy afternoon, Clara entered the cafe, shaking water from her hair. She saw Oliver sitting at a table, writing in a notebook. He looked up. "Rough weather, huh? I thought you might stay home today." "I like the rain," Clara said, sitting across from him. "It makes everything softer." Oliver closed his notebook and pushed a cup of tea toward her. "Here, I made it a few minutes ago." Clara wrapped her hands around the warm cup. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The rain tapped softly against the windows, and the cafe lights made the room glow with golden warmth. "What are you writing?" Clara asked. Oliver hesitated. "Ideas. I want to write a collection of short stories, but I'm not sure if I'm any good." Clara smiled gently. "You won't know until you try." He looked at her with quiet gratitude. Autumn arrived, painting the town in gold, red, and orange. The cafe felt even cozier with warm cinnamon smells and soft blankets on the chairs. Clara and Oliver grew closer. They walked home together after closing time, shared jokes, and sometimes cooked simple dinners at Clara's small apartment. One chilly evening, Oliver found Clara sitting outside the cafe, watching leaves dance in the wind. "Hey," he said gently, "you look like you're waiting for something." "Maybe I am," Clara said. "I'm just not sure what." Oliver sat beside her, holding 2 cups of hot chocolate. "Well, here's something not worth waiting for," he said with a grin. Clara laughed and took the cup. "I used to be afraid of starting over," she admitted. "But here, I feel different." "Different how?" "More like myself." Oliver nodded slowly, understanding without needing more words. A few days later, Clara found a small envelope on her usual table. Her name was written on it in Oliver's handwriting. Inside was a short story titled The Girl by the Blue Door. The story was about a traveller who arrived in a town that felt strangely familiar, as if it had been waiting for her. In the town, she found a cafe with a blue door and a warm light inside. There, she met someone who helped her remember her dreams and her courage. At the end of the story, Oliver had written, "I'm still learning how to tell stories, but this one is for you. If you want, maybe we can write the next one together." Clara's heart beat faster. Just then, Oliver walked out from the kitchen. When he saw her holding the letter, he stopped. "So, you read it?" he said softly. "Yes," Clara whispered. "It was beautiful." She walked up to him, touched his arm gently and said, "I would like to write the next story too." Oliver smiled warmly, slowly, like sunrise. "Then let's begin." Winter came early that year, covering Maplebridge in soft snow. The cafe looked magical with small lights hanging around the blue door. Clara helped Oliver decorate the place, hanging stars from the ceiling and arranging pine branches on the shelves. One evening, after they closed the cafe, they stood outside under the falling snow, watching their breath float into the cold air. "You know," Oliver said quietly, "I used to think this cafe was all I had left of my family, but now it feels like the beginning of something new." Clara looked at him, her heart warm despite the cold. "It feels like that to me too." Oliver took a slow breath, then reached for her hand. "Clara, I'm glad you walked through that blue door." She squeezed his hand gently. "I'm glad I stayed." And as they stood there, snow falling softly around them, the blue door behind them seemed to glow even brighter, as if keeping its promise of better days.